Hello everybody, I am Sonny from Think to Win, and here I am bringing you my Spectral Duke deck profile. This is an older version of the deck, since I built this when Mark was still very popular in the Gold Paladin era, before the end of the World Championships, since I started playing Vanguard at that time, and at that time the price of a Mark was around $25 each, which was not a good investment for me at the time, since I just started and in my area there were no locals or anything. So I'm running this version without any perfect guards, since it was much cheaper, and like this I have less dead draws that I can only use for guard. But this comes at the expense that whenever you draw grade 3 you just want to get rid of it on the field, otherwise it will be dead meat in your hand, since you can't use it for anything other than being a Vanguard or a vanilla in the rear guard, except for Gigantic Charger, I mean Destroyer of course. So without further ado, let's begin the deck profile. First I have the starting Vanguard Vortimer. It's pretty basic, since without this guy your whole Spectral Duke right chain doesn't work, and this is the typical after BT06 and right chain, since whenever you ride the grade 1 on top of the grade 3, I mean the grade 0, you can check the top 7 cards for the grade 2 or the grade 3 version of the right chain. And if you ride anything else on it, you can move it and it will be a 4K vanilla in the rear guard. So after this, let's move on to the triggers. I'm running 8 critical triggers because stand triggers are not really good for this version of this deck, since you will be retiring your rear guards. Therefore they can no longer stand again. And like that, it will be a 5K trigger and you barely get anything out of it. So I'm running 4 of the Falcon Knights because at this time I had only these. So yeah, I kept them, but they will be gone in the remake of the deck, which will be coming soon. Then I have 4 heal triggers, pretty standard. It's Elixir Sommelier, nothing to talk about. It heals you and gives you 5k if you have equal to or more than your opponent's damage. Then for the grade 1s, 4 of the grade 1 Vortimer, Scout of Darkness. It has the it's basically the grade 1 of the right chain, and its ability is whenever you ride a grade 2 on it, you can retire a rear guard, for example this Regal Dagger, and you get the top 2 cards of your deck free onto the field. And if you don't want to use those 2 cards, you can put them on the bottom of the deck. But the main reason that I run Spectral Duke is that I want to plus and rush early with, even if I get crappy cards, I will still go with it. And anyway, cards at the bottom of the deck are useless unless you get a Garmor off and you can shuffle the whole thing. Then I'm running 2 Slagle Daggers, basically because I only have 2, and I don't really use its counter blast too much unless I have a backup Vanguard up, because with Spectral Duke I usually just retire stuff, and sometimes this guy dies as well. And I want as much counter blast for Spectral Duke as possible, so I usually avoid using Slagle Dagger. And sometimes I even forget that it has an ability, so yeah. Then I have 2 Listener of Truth Din Rings, because sometimes I can top it from the deck, and like that it's a free card by Soul Blasting something, which is pretty good. But I'm only running 2 because basically I wanted to run 2 of the Black Main Witches just for lols. So yeah, 2 Black Main Witch. This card has the ability that whenever it goes onto the Vanguard spot or the rear guard circle, you can kill one of your rear guards and get the top card. This is a good alternative ride to the grade 1 Vortimer, because basically you move this card to the rear guard circle, and then with this card's ability you can sacrifice it immediately and maybe you will get something good from the top of your deck. Then I'm running one Nimoy. It has the same ability as Vivian, and I'm only running one of it because at the time I thought that running 4 Garruses is too mainstream, and therefore I just put this one in, tagged it in. But yeah, I'm going to run the 8 Garruses from when I will retool the deck, because yeah, you need to hit those Crossrides. Then moving on to the grade 2s. For grade 2 Vortimer, it has the same ability as the grade 1 Vortimer, that whenever you ride the third card on it, which is Spectral Duke Dragon, you can sacrifice one of your rear guards and get the top 2 of the top of the deck, and the typical right chain ability that when you have the grade 1 in the soul, it gets 1k, putting it up to 10k, which is good. Then I am running 3 Vivians. This one is SP, and basically I'm running 3 of these because it's a really good card, because it's also a pressure unit. Your opponent doesn't want to let it hit, otherwise you get free stuff. Of course, you only get the free stuff when you have an empty rear guard circle, otherwise, yeah, it's 9k vanilla. But yeah, it's basically a pressure unit, and sometimes when you hit you can get something good, like a new attacker from the top of your deck. Then I am running 3 Bowmains. These two are from the trial deck, and this one is from the booster 06. And I'm only running 3 of these because I wanted to run 2 of the trips, which is the Demijohn Flipper. Yeah, Mage of Calamity trip, it's the Demijohn Flipper, and I wanted to run these cards so that I can get an extra counterblast free spot open sometimes for a Spectral Duke or for anything else that might use it, and it's good for pressure because the opponent doesn't want to let it hit, for the sole reason that you don't use some counterblast ability. Then moving on to the grade 3s, I am running only 3 Spectral Duke Dragons because I think that it's useless in the rear guard circle. You only want it as the Vanguard because otherwise it's a 10k vanilla. But it's basically the main unit of the deck, because when the grade 2 Vortimer is in the soul, it gets 1k, putting it up to 11, which is good defense. And whenever you are at limit break, which is the 4 damage, you get the ability that you counterblast 2, sacrifice 3 of your rear guards, and Spectral Duke can stand again, which means that you can stack triggers on it, meaning that the opponent will have a harder time blocking your attacks, and also it's an extra card for the hand, and you have a greater chance of actually getting triggers and putting it to another rear guard if you have. And also, this one is SP, because if you have a unit on the back of your card, then you are required to run an SP. This is an unwritten rule between Edwin and I. Then, as the backup Vanguard, I'm running 2 Garmors, because it's a really good card whenever you miss the Spectral Duke ride, since it has the ability that you counterblast 2 on ride, and you get any card from the deck, for example a Dim Drain or a Garrus for boosting, meaning that you get a controlled plus, which is really good. Then I am running 2 Gigantic Destroyers, since it's a good rear guard which can hit 12k, and with a Garrus boosting it will hit for 21, or 20 with a 7k, meaning that if your opponent has a 10 or 11k Vanguard, they will have to put 15k shield for it to be blocked, and this is a really good pressure, especially at 5 damage, meaning that your opponent will have to discard more cards, making it harder for them to actually attack you in the next turn or block later on. So that was my perfect guardless Spectral Duke deck. I really like the deck, even in this form, and it can actually beat a few decks, especially if you sack with it. You get the right chain, you get good cards, and you get a decent amount of triggers, this deck is pretty good, but I'm going to retool it with the spirits and also the perfect guards from BT09, since I want to make the deck more competitive, and like that I am going to be testing with it again to test how well it fares in the current meta. So yeah, that was my deck profile, and I hope to see you guys in the next video.